It's overhyped. Um, this one's a little over 2 hours long, and I felt like it was like closer to three.
Mm.
It's the pacing is bad. There's anybody kind of going into it with expectations of like the Iron Claw or something. There's really not a lot of it's called the Smashing Machine, and we don't actually see a lot of him in the ring.
Mm.
And the problem with that is when we see him outside of the ring, it's underdeveloped. We're not like there were things that are I don't want to spoil it for people, but there are things that are referenced that I believe if you had shown instead of just referencing, it makes the film infinitely better.
Mm.
Infinitely better. There's a moment where it's a very dramatic retelling of something that happened. And I'm the whole time I'm thinking we should have seen that. We
Mm.
should if we had seen that, so much more powerful. And that's my be throughout. There are moments like that's my thought process. I'm like, okay, so they're telling us about that, but I wanted to see that. I
Mm.
wanted to like know more about that, dive deeper. There are plot points where I feel like all are underdeveloped. They don't tell enough of the story. Like if you look up and research him, there's that one, it's called the Smashing Machine because at one point towards the end of his career, he was beaten so badly that, he had to have shit done to his eyes. And like, there was a point where they thought he wasn't going to live. And then, or when he was going to be blind and never see again. And they just don't really. And I was disappointed because there's an interview where Dwayne is talking about how he had Benny. They were telling the guy that he was fighting, no, really hit me, really, because he's not going to cut away. I need you to really hit me, and it just wasn't that powerful. Even when he's
Mm.
really hitting him, I'm just like, this is what they were describing because this ain't moving me at all. Like so, yeah. And then I'm just gonna say it. I think because you and I had talked about it, we were wondering why it's like it's all Dwayne Johnson, it's all Dwayne Johnson, it's all Dwayne Johnson. Why is the film not? Well, now I know because film's just not very good. And I'm
Mm.
gonna be honest. I think that Dwayne is getting all the Oscar talk because he's playing a role that he hasn't really done in the past. But if you're asking me personally, I don't think it's Oscar worthy. I just
Mm.
don't. In fact, I think he tries too hard with the voice because Kerr has a very distinct voice. It's very like, and there are certain points where I think he's trying so hard it almost, for me, became comedic. I was thinking he sounds like Rain Man on steroids. I'm looking at him and
Mm.
it's like, what would Rain Man be on steroids? That's what. And then there are other times where he slips out of it and you don't even hear it's just Dwayne. And I'm like, this isn't, you know. So yeah, there were issues with it for me. I was just like, we're talking about Oscar buzz because he's in makeup and prosthetics and you can't really tell it's him. And in the moments where he's doing the voice really well, it's like, yeah, it's a really good acting performance. But is it Oscar worthy? I don't think so. And I think they highly underutilized Emily Blunt, who is always fantastic in everything. But that's one of the underdeveloped things that I was talking about. That storyline, that relationship. If you look up the real life back and forth between them, they hint at it, they touch on it, we get a glimpse. There's one really powerful scene that's like, where was that the rest of the film? I want that like throughout that they just didn't. I don't know, man. That's just me. That's just
Yeah.
me, y'all. But I think the two other people in my theater that watched it agreed because they were all kind of like, what? So yeah, yeah, man. That's. I
I
don't
guess
know.
it heavily follows. There's a documentary that came out about him as well, and it heavily follows like the documentary's pacing and things like that. So I was listening to the Big Picture podcast, who kind of did like a loose review on it, and that's what they were saying. They felt like they were watching an acting documentary compared to an actual storytelling film, which was interesting.
I would agree with that. Yeah, I would agree with that. Except at least in the documentary, they give you full detail about
Right.
certain things. This is like they touch on, like for people who don't know, without really spoiling the film, it's like the guy had never lost a match in his life ever.
Yeah.
Like he was switching between all these different fighting styles and these different fighting arenas and had never lost. And I don't know if he's like slow in real life or if he's just like socially awkward, whatever. But so when he finally loses it, it's like it affected him in real life, like really bad. Mentally, it sent him down a very dark road. And they hint at that, but we don't see it enough. Yeah. We like, oh, I'm upset. I lost. You're not being very nice. That's where the Rain Man thing, he's like having this argument with Emily Blunt's character, and it's like, that's not very nice. You know this, how it affects me. And I'm like, what the fuck is happening right now? And then his drug addiction to painkillers and how like we okay, he's looking at some stuff and we you know, and he's like, oh, okay, and then he shoots up once and that's basically it. And then we're told he has a problem with it and that it's causing all this grief and he's not performing the same anymore and blah blah. We're told that, but we don't see the digression into the despair and the mental aspect. We see him check into a rehab center. That's it. We see the check in, and then he's out. And I'm like, but he's mentally unstable at that point. And him in the rehab center, mentally unstable, dealing with the addiction would have been so much more powerful to see as oh, okay, he's got a drug problem. Oh, he's going to rehab. Oh, he's out. Like, we're missing it. There's so much more to be told there visually, right? It is storytelling, but it's also visual, and we want to see that. I don't know, man.
Your Letterboxd review, out of 5, how many stars would you give it?
2.5.
2.5.
2.5.
Yeah.
And that, yeah, I want to give it 3. I want to. And if he hadn't slipped in and out of the voice, maybe 3. But there were moments where I just was like, I'm not buying it. It's over the top. It's not enough. It's just right. I'm like, it's the 3 bears, man. It's like, and the pot of porridge. It's like, sometimes it's perfect. Sometimes it's so ridiculously campy. And other times it's not even there. I'm like, what the fuck?